Hi and welcome back to Kingsclear. This is the June update, and I think I say it pretty much every month, not a great deal's happened. But this month, not a great deal has happened. We went on holiday, which was a good couple of weeks. Obviously the exhibition up in Llangollen took a bit of time, and obviously with this lovely temperature we got at the moment, it's great sitting in the garden, but it's quite warm up here even with the insulation. But I will go through some little bits and pieces that I've done over the last month, and I'll just go through those quickly now. Hedge, as you can see, started. We'll go through a bit more of that, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the method that Dylan showed us on Dillington Model Railway. So basically just using a type of scouring pad there. We'll obviously develop that. We've closed off this gap here, so we'll finish that off. We've got some new additions to Kingsclear. Now I know that obviously the Class 50s have been well documented on YouTube, so I'm not going to go into too much, but these are my favourite locos. So when they came out, I had to get a couple, maybe one too many, but I had to get a couple. And also, if I just spin around a bit quicker there, we've got the B sets, which I did the last video on, but those are excellent. So we'll have a quick look at all three of those items, and hope you enjoy. Following on from the May update, I actually locked this board down, so that's now secure in position. And then what I then did, I filled this section with the filler. Now I didn't use the DAS that I normally do, purely because I'd run out. So I used another product, which, let me have a look, it's called, oh my God, that stuff. Basically got it from Hobbycraft. Unfortunately, it's not as good as DAS. I found that when it dried, it really shrunk and cracked quite badly. Hence why you can see there's an awful lot more of it being put into all the cracks. And that's something that's never happened with a DAS product. So yeah, just a bit of a word of warning. Obviously try and use DAS if you can. Well, that's what I've always found anyway. So yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave some bits of this white exposed, because obviously this is all a bit of a clay area, and being on an embankment, I'll just show an area where obviously the clay has been exposed. But as I say, the paint is in effect using these products here, burnt umber and raw umber I should say here, and raw sienna. Basically these came from Amazon for those two big pots there. I think that was about 7 or 8 quid each, something like that, so they do go an awful long way. And because I use both, it does mean that you get a bit of a mixture of the earth colour. So I'm just trying to give you a bit of a view, obviously with the reflection of the lights. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'll just obviously put some more paint onto that area, and then we'll put some grass on it. With the paint now dry, I've applied various different material layers. So the first one was a soil layer, which is the darker colour that you can see. I also then put like a wood chip type effect on there. I don't know if you can quite pick that up. And the two grasses that I currently use, which are obviously the woodland scenic ones, blended turf, and the other one which is fine turf. So that just blends that into the garden area. It does look a bit disjointed at the moment because obviously that strip up there where it's quite light needs to have the static grass applied. So what I'm going to do now, just let that dry, give it a day or so to let that dry. Put the fence along there. Once the fence is along, then I can then start putting static grass up against the fence, and then obviously on this side it's going to be weeds and various other things like trees, etc. And then we'll lose that what was quite a horrible joint. With the ground cover now glued and dried, it's now time to put the fence on. Now, as you've obviously, for regular viewers to Kingsclear, and for those that haven't, I have done an awful lot of fencing, both the 5-foot GWR style fence and the 4-foot. And as it's been evolving over time, I've actually been finding different ways to actually to do it a lot better. The first bit I did up behind the engine shed area, was to be honest with you, a complete and utter nightmare. Trying to feed the wire into the holes, etc., caused a lot of damage, and it was a nightmare. And then when I progressed down towards the back end of the station, the back end of the layout, it was a little bit easier. I could move my hands a bit better. But then I accidentally found a very easy way of doing it. I was talking to Dylan from Dillington Models, who was doing something similar to this. I was finding the same issue in the fact that what most people will do is put the post in to the ground and then try and feed through the wire into the posts once they're established in the ground. Now the way that I'm going to do this is slightly different. I'm actually going to feed all of the posts onto the wire before they go into the ground. And obviously I'll show you this on this video, but I found it is just so much easier. And from a time perspective, where it was taking me a good couple of hours with a lot of frustration and a lot of words that I can't say because children are listening, this method actually took no time at all. It was very, very simple, easy to do, and maybe something that you could look at. Obviously, if you've got a long stretch of fencing to do, then maybe you can use this. So anyway, so what we're going to be using today, I'll just bring it on the screen there. It's a scale model scenery, 5-foot GWR post and wire fencing, and the area that we're in effect going to do is from this end of the gardens right to the other end on that strip. So so see what you think. If you like it, obviously please use it. As I say, it just makes more sense to me, but as I say, see what you think. Okay, so the first thing we do is we measure the length of the area which we want the fence to go. Now we do this for two reasons. One, we are going to be cutting the wire at that length, plus a little bit either end, so don't cut to the length that you need. Always give yourself I would say a good 20 mil, so 10 mil each side. You don't have to do too much, but just a little bit to play with. And also now we mark up the centres of where the posts are going to go, so we can understand how many posts we require. Once we've done that, so we've got the length, we've marked the post centres, we can drill those post centres and we can start cutting the wire. So the other thing I forgot to mention, and as you can see here, here's the first post. Never, when you do your measuring and obviously drilling it in, never put the post literally on the edge. Always take it in a little bit from the edge. Really it means that you don't obviously break the side surface of your edges, and also means you get a little bit more stability, because don't forget, and I know from bitter experience, it's very easy now to rub against something and knock it. And although these are quite secure, the last thing you want to do is be snapping these, because obviously they're only literally wood. Okay, so the instructions say to use 24 mil centres. So I don't think anybody's going to notice if it's 24, 25 or even 23. So I think it's just a case of obviously doing what you think is right, but aiming to go at that 24 mark. So I need 610 mil. Now I've worked that out obviously at somewhere around about 25.4. Now because I've taken it in slightly, as you can see, and that'll be at both ends, I'm looking at something more than likely in around about the 25-ish to 26 fence posts. So what I'm going to do, I know roughly what I'm looking for. With the ruler here, I'm now going to obviously go through, drill those holes at the 24 mil or thereabouts centres, and then in effect all the holes are ready. Now for that, obviously just a standard drill. This one's the 2.2 mil. I think they say use a 2 mil, but as I say, it's slightly bigger. So yeah, so I'm not going to video myself doing that because that's incredibly boring. But basically, I'm just going to run that along now, along the line of where the fence is going to go. And then once all that is done, then it's a case for putting the wire into the actual posts. Now with all the holes drilled, I've positioned all of the posts. And I always do this just to make sure that the holes are drilled fully. There's no point halfway going through this and then finding out one of the holes wasn't properly done. And also what you might have noticed is that I put a bit of a kink into this end here. That's increased the length of the wire by roughly 10 mil. So I've had to use an extra post, but that's fine. The other thing as well, before we get started, now I'm going to literally just put these straight out of the packet into the ground. So there won't be any paint or anything like that on there at all. Now I know that Dillington Model Railways, he pre-weathered his, which was fine, and they look really excellent. But what I normally do is I will normally use the washes, or if I decide to maybe paint one or two of them up a bit more weathered, I will do. But generally what I do, because they're in effect wood anyways, so they're a very good representation. Yes, a little bit dark on one side where the laser's cut through, but I will just, as I generally do, weather it with the Citadel wash products. However, if I wish to, I can obviously put some weathering on there, but I do need to make that decision before I glue those into position, because the last thing you want to do is get paint onto your grass. Okay, so that's all the posts in. I'm happy with the verticality of the posts, happy with the holes. Now it's a case of just now measuring out the wire, cutting that to length, and then I'll show you the trick that I've learned. So the first stage is to feed all 7 wires into the first post. Don't worry if you have a bit of excess, because obviously you can trim those down later, and there will be a strainer on this one. Also, just as a point of note, this is the 5-foot GWR post and wire fence with 7 wires. I think I said earlier it was a 5 wires, so I do apologise. Okay, so once that glue is dry, and that is a nice and firm fix, what we can then do is feed all of the other posts onto the other end of the wire, and then once all of the posts are on, in effect we can just drop the post and glue them into position. So let's see how it goes. With the top and bottom wires now in place, we can feed all the remaining wires in. This is where you've got to be very patient and careful not to have any twists in your wire, or wires I should say, from the first one, because as I say, you'll find it quite simple that when you start moving around, if you've twisted it anywhere, you'll have a problem. But because you've got the stability of the top and bottom wires, the other 5 wires, in this case for the 7 wire version, should in effect fly through all of the posts if they're dead level. And again, this may be somewhere you use a flat surface, so I'm going to use this area that's going to be a field in some point in time, and do that now. So although it looks a bit of a mess at the moment, as I start feeding the wires through, making sure I keep the alignment and get no twists, you'll see it all come together. And we're done. So didn't take too long, about 15 minutes I suppose. Not a very long run this one, to be honest with you, but as I said, it's making sure you just don't get those twists and kinks. This wire is fine, is really good stuff, but it has the tendency, if you bend it over, you'll get a kink in it, and then you'll have problems obviously getting it through the posts. Now there were a couple of posts, and I'm not sure what it, I suppose it's part of the manufacturing process. The one hole is slightly bigger than the other side, so it's always making sure you get the right side to feed it through. Anyway, so that's all done now, so it's just a case now of actually putting it onto the layout. So as I say, for this particular area, Generally I wouldn't have actually bothered doing this method. I could have just put the posts in and fed it through because it's very accessible. But like the area behind the breakdown train, as you can see there, that was an absolute nightmare. And to be honest with you, I think I spent, I don't know, a couple of days on that, and leaning over the track and the damage that it caused. I just wish that I'd have actually thought of this way of doing it beforehand. But hey ho, we live and learn, and hopefully if this is something that you've seen and thought, oh, I got a position like that, maybe try it yourself. Okay, let's put it on the track. So now for the easy bit, or I should say the easy bit if you can remember where all the holes were. I think we're pretty good here. So what I do for this particular one, because of the difference of woods and various other materials I've used, I'm just going to put a little dab of super glue in there to hold it. And I generally would use 3 posts at a time. And there we go, that's one of the holes. So it was around here somewhere, there it is. Do 3 posts at a time. Make sure they're nice and firm and secure, and that you've got no major issues in the wire. Just let them dry off for a bit, and then obviously just repeat your process as you go down. I think that if you try too much at one go, you can get unstuck. It only takes you to miss a hole or put a twist in the wire, and all your good work has been in effect wasted. So I'm not going to video me sticking all these in. You might most probably fall asleep. If you're watching this at late at night, maybe it can help you go to sleep. But as I say, what I'll do, I'll just drop back onto this one once they're all completed. So the fence is now in position. As you can also see, or hopefully you can see, I'll put some strainers at the end of the runs, both ends of this run and both ends of that run. I do see a lot of fences on model railways, and they never seem to put strainers on. So unless they've got some really secure fencing with the tension and the rest of it, just another added little bit of realism that you should need to pick up. So now it's just a case of painting up the wire. I'm just going to use rust most probably for that, and then putting a stain on all of the wood. With the wire now painted and the stain wash applied to the wood, it is still drying, so it might still look a little bit shiny. That's it's completed. So to be honest with you, I think that's taken me, what, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours in total, something along those lines. As I say, for this particular area, I didn't need to do that method that I showed you, purely because you've got very easy access. But as I said before, if you're restricted in access, it's a lot easier, and trying to feed that wire through those holes when you're leaning over stuff is a nightmare. But yeah, quite pleased how it's come out. There's got to be a lot of obviously veg work to be done in that area. We've got the static grass to put down first, but I'm generally happy with it, to be honest with you. It's given me just about the right level of base colour that I was after. And as I say, I don't want to saturate it with weeds and stuff like that, because I still want to see that fence coming through. But yeah, cool. I'm quite pleased with it. And now we'll try and do a bit of hedging. So as I said earlier in the this preview, I saw Dylan on Dillington Model Railways do this method for doing hedging, and it looked really good, so I thought I'd have a go. Now what I'm going to try and do is obviously explore different ways of doing video as well. So I'm going to do a bit of time lapse here, see how it goes. It might be a disaster. If not, let's see how it goes. So there was a bit of time lapse there for you. I think it worked out quite well. Just to go through exactly what we did there, obviously pretty self-explanatory. I'd already painted the base of the hedge with a brown colour, and then with a liberal application of a PVA type of glue, and then put on a dark colour leaf. Now you can use whichever colour that suits the area that you want, but I went for a dark colour leaf. I'm going to do a little bit more now, especially around the edges and the corners, and obviously the other side, which still needs to be done. Once that's fully dried, then I will highlight some of it with a lighter colour leaf. But as I say, that's really down to your taste of what you're looking for. But it's so simple, and as I say, thanks for Dylan for showing us that little method, because I've got this hedge and a couple of other hedges to do as well. So I think it's yeah, it looks pretty good. With the lighter leaves now applied primarily to the top and the top sides, really, you can just see a little bit of difference there. Just going to start to let that dry now, just see if we've missed any areas. Generally looks all right, to be honest with you, at the moment. Maybe a little bit there in that little corner, but the good thing about these I don't know, scouring pads, whatever you call them, is that because they're a dark green anyway, you can actually get away with having a few areas where it is a little bit open and exposed, because that actually makes it look darker. So yeah, so as I say, so what we'll do is just let this dry now, and then I'll give you a bit of a clip of when it's dry and potentially in situ. Just before we move on to the new arrivals here at Kingsclere, just want to go back to the bee set. Now, I did a video of the weathering of these two carriages a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, really lovely models. And so I won't say too much, apart from obviously, if you're interested, have a quick look at that video where I explain where I put the tail light in there, added the passengers and done the weathering. But yeah, just lovely carriages, and for Kingsclere, exactly what I was after. That loco most probably is a little bit too noisy, so I'm going to switch it off so we can hear what we're doing. But yeah, as I say, when you run these with the prairies, or the 14XXs, or the 44XXs when they come through as well, they just do look absolutely superb. So yeah, so as I say, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Hopefully you can pick it up, but when I was talking in the actual video, I was talking about some chains that are between the two carriages. I've actually been able, I don't know if you could be able to make those out there, I've actually been able to attach those chains to each other, and yeah, they're fine. They run around all of the curves here at Kingsclere as well, so it just gives that extra level of realism. I just hope you could see that on the video. Yeah, so that's about it really. I don't want to go too much detail. As I say, if you're interested, obviously just please check out the video I did a couple of weeks ago. And now for the new additions. So as you can see, I recently bought the 3 of the new Acroscale Class 50s. These are superb. Can't really fault them. All 3 are the factory DCC sound, and the sound is excellent. So I'm not going to give a massive review into these. There's a lot of reviews out there, and I don't always think sometimes they're a little bit biased, but I'm just going to do something similar to what I did with the 31 and the 37s, and just do a little bit of a weathering as I normally do. Also, I picked up a few Mark IIAs, which are excellent. Those are the Bachmann ones. And those went with the Mark IICs that I got from Acroscale when they were available. Now the issue is, for these rakes, the Mark IICs that I've got, i.e. the TSO and the BFK in the blue and grey, weren't really in the rake for the West of England services. So unfortunately I missed the boat for the Mark IIBs, which was a bit of a pain, as you can imagine. So I'm going to have to wait for the rerun. Hopefully that's not too long from Acroscale for the Bs. However, if anybody's listening and that wants to do a swap, then drop us a line, because I just can't get hold of the Bs for love or money, and anything you see on eBay is just silly prices, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, the rake itself now looks pretty good. As I say, with that omission of obviously those Mark II Cs. So yeah, really pleased with it. So what I'm going to do now, just do a few shots of them running, and yeah, see what you think. So I do hope you enjoyed those quite short running sessions with the 50s. Bit of super power there at the end with obviously the two 50s pulling together. And yeah, both were fine, one hadn't failed, so don't worry, they'll both pulling well. So it's just nice to see them going. Anyway, so that's the end of the June review. Thank you very much for obviously sticking with us, if you have. Obviously, if there's anybody that hasn't subscribed, please do. All subscriptions are just really welcomed. Any comments or questions that you have, please just drop them in. And as you can see now, I have started to put some vegetation along this bank here now, and it really is starting to get to somewhere where I was after. Still got a lot more to do with the fence. The hedge isn't in situ because, well, basically run out of time. But you can see that method that Dylan explained to us and obviously showed everybody else is really, really good. So I'm going to finish that off over the next month, and then hopefully try to progress with some more in this area. And yeah, so there we go. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.